Hey everybody, I'm Joe from Joe Pro Decor. Today I've got a day off the brush and I'd like to take this opportunity to do a video based on a very important subject, which is water-based or oil-based. And that is the question. So this video is for the purpose of potential clients, customers out there, so the general public, making a decision on whether water-based is for them or oil-based or solvent-based, as it's known. So I want to give you a little bit of an overview. As many of you will know that follow this channel, I also run a small painting and decorating business that we cover Greater Manchester mainly, including central Manchester, the outskirts, and pretty much northwest England to a certain degree. We do travel. So that's a bit of background information. And of course, if you ever want to know the name of the company, you can always ask and I will always send you a message. So when I go to price up a job, one of the main questions I ask when going through the specifications of the job that's wanted, the main one is, do you prefer water-based or oil-based? Now, I've not always give this option. Years gone by, this would have always automatically have been a solvent-based eggshell, satin or gloss finish. But since 2010, the new EU regulations came about where they had to reduce some of the chemicals or materials in the paint that were dangerous and hazardous to health, which are volatile organic compounds or VOCs. Since doing this, a lot of manufacturers, paint manufacturers, have then had to start making a water-based equivalent. Now, water-based were about before 2010, but they were not very good. But what this new regulation did was it kind of forced all these manufacturers to then take heed and make paints with low VOCs. Now, as a member of the general public, you may recognise oil-based as being that really high odour, smelly gloss or smelly paint. You can smell it usually for days or even weeks after without proper ventilation. Now, this is the solvent-based. The water-based is low odour. So you can tell the difference by a country mile. So what do you need to know before you make your decision on water-based or oil? Because it's not just as simple as it doesn't smell as much, or there's not as many VOCs in water-based, because in water-based woodwork paints, they are low. They're classed as low instead of high. There is a big difference. Although they can't 100% take out these volatile organic compounds. They are in paints generally, and it's near enough impossible to take them all out. So paint in general isn't the best for your health. But like I say, as long as you ventilate a room well, you will not suffer from the VOCs. You can take steps so you don't suffer the consequences of inhaling these volatile organic compounds. So, which one do you go for? So what I'll do is I'll start off by explaining the pros of water-based and the cons of water-based, and then I'll go on to oil. So water-based, let me start with oil. So originally, I think you're pretty much more familiar with the oil-based, so that's what I think I'll explain first. So with oil-based, you know you're going to get a durable finish. You know you're going to get the smell. If you can put up with that and ventilate the room, then you're fine with that. So the durability aspect of oil-based is very important. The finish is very important on oil-based. So when you compare oil to water, I don't think you can match the finish on a water base. That's my opinion. So with brush and roller, you're always going to get a smoother, better finish with oil based. So that's one of the things to think about. Also, the third thing with oil based, and this is quite a big one for me, and it seems to be quite a big one, makes a difference with a lot of customers too, a lot of clients, is the fact that when you're going over previously painted oil woodwork, you only need, with the initial key and the initial prep work, you only need to go over with 2 coats of woodwork. It's pretty much guaranteed, even with whites, to cover in 2 coats. So that's one of the benefits of oil. So let me go on to the downfalls and the negatives now of oil base. So with oil, you've got the odour, and with that you've got the VOCs, so they are higher. So you have to make more effort to ventilate the area when it's applying and after applying. That's very important. With oil base now, if you choose to go with white, which to be honest most people do and are still having done these days, even though, you know, greys are coming into woodwork and stuff like that now, but if you go with the majority and you have brilliant white woodwork, then what happens with the white is, with it being oil based and with them taking out some of the materials that made it even higher VOC from 2010, the paints do lose the whiteness faster now and more quickly. That is one of the noticeable things about oil-based paint these days in white. It will go yellow over time. Now, there is some things you can do to minimize oil-based going yellow, and that is if you choose eggshell over satin over gloss. So if you go with the flatter finish and not the shinier finish, you will get longer out of that finish before it goes yellow. So the shinier it is, the quicker it will go yellow. The other thing is, what you've got to consider, if you're having painting done and it's in a room that has not got a lot of natural light coming in through the windows, etc., skylights, then it will go yellow faster too. So for example, I'll show you now. I'll show you something. Just an example. I'll show you in this room here, I've painted oil, and this was done about 7 or 8 years ago in here. And as you can see, it has discoloured slightly and it has yellowed. And the reason I know that is because in the room next to it, and this was done on purpose to see the difference, you can see that water-based finish there has stayed white. Whereas over time, that one is slightly discoloured, but it's not a massive difference by any means. The only reason you can tell is the fact that they are next to each other. If you walked into this room and you didn't see the difference on that, you wouldn't walk in and think, oh God, this woodwork's yellowed. Jesus, that's, not very good, is it? You wouldn't really notice. The only time you'd really notice that is if, say, the walls were painted white and you could see the white walls next to the woodwork, then you would notice. Now, this is what I wanted to point out now. Where there's UV rays coming in, natural light through the window, you can see that the paint there hasn't yellowed as quickly or as much. Still looks white. And if I just drop the camera down to the rad cover, the radiator cover, it's just yellowed more than the window ledge, which has got more natural light going on it. So as I mentioned, UV rays help the paint to stay white for longer. And as I also explained in the other room, it's not a deal breaker because you don't really notice the paint yellowing over time necessarily, unless it's against something white. and then it does look obvious. So that's something to consider when you're picking whether you want water-based or oil-based. Right, so we'll go on to water-based now. So I'll start off with the pros. As you know, water-based stays white. So if you're painting a wall in white, I would always recommend to my clients and my customers, I would always recommend that they have water-based woodwork for that reason alone. Now, for me personally, there's only one other benefit, and that's the fact that a lot of us decorators now, a lot more of us now are trained to spray, whether it's with airless spraying machines, HVLP, whether it's a compressor unit, or XVLP, and so on and so on. These different methods of spraying. And when we spray, we don't like to put oil through the spray machines, although I must say HVLP is pretty much initially designed for oil-based rather than water-based. But for speed, we use airless, and we don't put oil through the airless machines generally. So another benefit you could say is the water-based finishes can be sprayed as opposed to the oil-based, if you want a spray finish, that is. So pretty much the low odor, I mean, and that's a given, it's the low odor. So if the smell of the other paint bothers you, the low odor thing on a water-based is a plus point, and you're not inhaling the high volatile organic compounds either with a water-based finish. But you can get around that with the oil base by well ventilating areas. So they're the benefits of water-based. The negatives for me, and these are quite important negatives for me, with a water-based coating, if you're going over old oil-based paint, which is pretty much 90% of the times in homes, for example, it will need 3 coats instead of 2. So you're paying for the extra material cost because water-based equivalents are generally more expensive than oil. You're paying for the extra labour charge of your decorator having to apply an extra coat on all of your woodwork. And as you're probably already aware, on a standard job, the woodwork is the most time-consuming part of the job other than the preparation. The woodwork takes the longest to do. The woodwork, therefore, is the most expensive part of the job. So that's one thing to consider with the water-based. Another negative, I don't believe that 99.9% of water-based paints can hold up to the durability of oil-based. There is probably one paint on the market currently that can even get close to an oil-based finish. Well, some people would argue that it is just as good and just as durable. That may be the case. But I'd say it's definitely not more durable than oil. And this is just one paint. So, in my opinion, you have to pay a premium for this paint, by the way, as it's exported from a foreign country. It's not a UK-based country. It's not even a European manufacturer. It's actually an American manufacturer. And all their paints, they're always very expensive paints, but they are just ahead of us when it comes to the quality of the water-based paints. So you have to pay a pretty penny for their paint, which is great if you can afford the high cost of that paint compared to other water-based, which aren't as good quality. Waste of time, in my opinion, using a cheap quality product. No point at all. If you can afford to pay that premium price, then brilliant. But then you've got the issue of then putting that product over previously painted oil. Even though it goes in 2 coats, it's then whether you think, to me, It's not ideal. It's doable, but it's not ideal. Now, if a customer is adamant, if you're adamant that you want water-based paint and you've got woodwork in your home that's been previously done in oil, the only way round that bar stripping it all down, which 99.9% of people are not going to go for that option because it's going to be far too expensive. It's far too time consuming. The next best option is to go with the adhesion primer and then the 2 coats of water-based. It's debatable whether these so-called self-priming water-based paints are actually doing as good a job as the oil going on. That is debatable. I do have slight concerns over that because these manufacturers do tend make claims that sometimes don't 100%, what can I say, hold up. So I can only go off my own experiences. I personally would rather go over an old oil-based paint with oil. It's 100% tried and tested. An oil-based paint is meant to go over oil. As you know, water and oil don't always mix, or pretty much they never mix. So that's my view on that, but I'm sure decorators, painters and decorators that are watching this will argue that fact. They will have their own opinion. They might disagree with what I'm saying, and that's fine. Maybe they've not had any issues yet, but I use nothing but water-based paint for 4 years solid, and I tried pretty much every different water-based woodwork paint out there, and I can only go off my own experiences, like I say. So the best way is to go over oil with oil and water with water. So on new work, it's a good opportunity to start with water-based. If you've moved into maybe you've moved into a new build house and the building company's already specified water-based paints, because some of them have gone on to water-based paints by now. Maybe your previous decorator applied a water-based coating over your oil. But this is important to know. But obviously your decorator can help you confirm which one of those two are on your woodwork now. So anyway, that's the drawback and the negatives of water-based. So I will always recommend an oil for durability, for finish, and for value for money as well, over previously painted oil. That is how I view it. But that's not to say you can't have water-based. Adhesion primers are exactly what they say on the tin. An adhesion primer is manufactured in a way it's meant to go over previously prepared oil-based coatings, and what that normally means is you give it a good sand, a good key. You degloss the surface before you attempt to put any other paint on top, and you then clean it with methylated spirit or sugar soap, whatever, depending on whether you're going on with the water or oil. So that's pretty much it, really. Water-based, just to give it a bit of an overview, water-based stays white, but isn't quite as durable, and the finish isn't quite as smooth. Oil-based white will yellow over time, but I think it's more durable and it's more cost-effective. And you've got to ask yourself, is the oil-based yellowing a big issue for you? Have you got natural light coming in your house? If you've got plenty of natural light, it won't happen overnight. It won't happen quickly. If it's dark, a dark room, or if it's a hall, stairs and landing, and you've not got many windows letting light in, then yes, it is something you may need to think about. Do I need to go the water-based route because I don't want it going yellow within 12 months? So, any questions, anybody? Please fire away. Don't forget, if anybody watching this doesn't agree with anything that I've been saying, then that's okay. It is open for debate with water-based and oil-based still. Everybody has their own opinions, but all these opinions are based on my experience in the trade. And I've had quite a bit of experience now using both water-based and oil. If any of you guys ask me to do a job and it's a spray job because you want a spray finish, it's going to be water-based paint. I'll quite happily use water-based and it sprays beautifully. You know, there's no issues there. The only issue is with the adhesion initially. So the correct methods and systems have to be used to make sure it sticks as well as it can. So anyway, I hope this video's helped you guys. Any questions, please ask. Any comments, fire away. Please like the video if this has been helpful to you. I'm just trying to think now, is there anything that I've missed out? There is one thing, actually, springs to mind, which I did forget to mention, and just in case you've not quite, just in case you've misunderstood what I've said, this only occurs to oil-based paint that is brilliant white or white. If you have a different colour on your woodwork, it's not going to this colour. It's only in white paint. So obviously some of the jobs I've done, and they've had grey woodwork, which seems to be very fashionable at the moment. I've done quite a few jobs where they've had very light coloured walls and coloured woodwork instead of the other way around. And that's not going to change. That will always stay the colour it is. It is only whites that suffer from this. So anyway, you guys take care. I look forward to seeing you in the very near future. I'll be putting up some more videos very soon. Take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.